Welcome back. For 3.5 years or so now, we've been covering the ongoing development of the split cycle engine, and I'm sure regular viewers will understand what I'm talking about. Rick Mayne has established a technology centre here on the Gold Coast, and he is developing an engine which he conceived and invented himself. And this development has gone from the running of the first prototype of the split cycle engine right through to refinements which really are quite staggering, and stay tuned for more reports on the engine themselves. But for all of that time, I've been watching Rick collect and restore a range of 1935 Fords. Now, what makes people restore vintage cars, I really don't know. I do it myself and really love it. And I love the old cars. I believe they have more character than modern day cars. And they certainly show the way in which technology has progressed. Now, Rick is particularly fixated on 1935 model Fords, and as we'll see in just a moment, he's dedicated to collecting the full range that was produced by Ford worldwide in 1935. He's doing extremely well, and in fact at a recent Ford motor car rally in Brisbane, an Australian Ford rally, he took out first, second and third prizes for the best cars in various categories. Now, the car that took out the Concours d'Elegance for the best is a 1935 Ford truck, which Rick found and fully restored, and it certainly is a magnificent example of the mark. Now, most people who like vintage cars like a full range over decades of vintage cars. Rick only likes 1935 Fords. Let's ask him why. Hey Rick, what got you involved with 1935 Ford V8s?
Hooning around my hometown in 35, so I was in love with the 35. But funnily enough, it was the ugly duckling of Fords around that time, and people liked the others.
I have to tell you that my preference is for the 1934.
Yeah, that was much more popular.
Yes, yeah. But you've had this obsession with them for all of that time?
Yes, right way back to early 50s.
Right. How many have you had?
I suppose probably 100 odd.
Is that right?
Yeah, over time.
Now, you've dedicated yourself to assembling every single model of Ford that was built in 1935.
That's correct.
How's that going?
That's good. We're getting towards halfway through. I've got about 3/4 to 7/8 of all that were made. Some of the ones I've got to get now are from America because they didn't come out to this part of the world, but I do have a passion for a full set.
How many are there?
About 14 or 15.
Different models?
Different models in 1935. That's colossal for one model year.
Yes. Because some of the models, such as the Roadster that's behind you there, were released in Australia, but in slightly different body form because the bodies were built locally, weren't they?
Yes, Ford did some strange things around the world. They gave half the body pressings for the same model and mixed them up in different parts of the world, so it makes that quite a thing. But I'm only after all the American ones and the most famous of the Australian ones.
Yes, the most common.
Common.
Now, you've been showing them.
Yes.
And you recently showed a number of vehicles at a Ford rally and did quite well.
Yeah, we picked up a first, second and third.
That's wonderful.
Yes, and we're thrilled to bits with that. We put a lot of time into them, do them properly.
Yes.
It's a 5-year project.
Yeah. Tell me about the truck.
Oh, the truck we found in New Zealand when we were on a motorcycle trip last year. We brought it home. Customs laughed at us, everybody laughed at us, but it's just won first prize. Best truck in Australia.
Well, it was a big restoration project, wasn't it?
Oh, huge.
And what about accessing parts? I mean, where do you have to ferret around to find the parts?
Well, New Zealand had some of the earliest of the Fords fully assembled out this part of the world. So New Zealand's been a great source of supply, and I managed to pick up 2 collections in New Zealand from friends of mine. I took the whole collection and brought them all over, and I've had a marvellous supply of parts. I've been very lucky.
Now, the restoration process takes place here at the Technology Park.
That's right.
And you've got a couple of guys who are really dedicated to it.
Stuart works on the chassis and engines. We recondition the engines from the ground up, but we run short of cylinder heads. I mean, they're 60 years old now, the alloy heads, and you can't weld them. So we've got patterns made, and we're making new cylinder heads and water pumps, and that's a big improvement. And we'll put the heads and the water pumps on sale later for people that want to keep their cars on the road.
Well, I would imagine. I mean, even the English Fords had the same. The Ford Pilots had the same engine.
That's right.
So you'd have a huge market in America, England, and Europe, and of course here.
Yes, it's good.
And there'd be a great demand for brand new alloy cylinder heads because they were one of the first cars to come out with alloy cylinder heads, weren't they?
They made a big difference to the cooling.
And what about the V8?
Oh, I'm in love with it. I'm doing everything to build the smallest engine in the world myself with the split cycle, but I'll never forget the sound of the V8.
Because they were remarkable. I mean, when you look at how smoothly they run now, how beautifully they run, they really were a great breakthrough in 1935 when people were used to fairly rough. In 1930 when people were used to fairly rough four cylinders.
That's right. Well, Henry put two Ford Model A's together, and he got a car of exceptional smoothness, but his success was his production line. He could pour a block in 8 minutes.
Amazing.
And if you think back, he made 1,200,000 cars in 1935 of that year. 1,200,000. Multiply that by 5, and you have to see how many wheels he had to make.
Yes.
I've done it. It's down to seconds each.
Yes.
But he had 5-10 factories doing it. So
Yes.
that's how he did it.
Yes, the father of mass production.
He planted a forest, in 1919 to supply the wood for roadster cars 20 years on, and put the railway lines down when he planted the trees. So he only had to go and chop them down and rail them into the factory. No one's ever had that much foresight.
No.
Ever.
Really quite
Ever.
remarkable.
Ever.
Well, we'll look forward to following the progress of the collection and also the showing of the cars. In fact, I think what I might do is come over and beat you up for a loan of a couple of the cars, and we'll do some road tests on them shortly.
Oh, that'd be excellent.
And present them on the show.
Okay.
Thanks for talking to us, Rick.
Thank you, Chris.